Okay, so when people ignore you, you obviously want to follow up, but there's nothing worse than following up and the first like start to the message you send is, "Hey, I'm just following up," or "Just wanted to check in," because this is obviously effectively the exact language that follow-ups tend to come across, and so people just know that it was either automated or you just copy and paste it and you left it. And the same can go for things like outreach, such as, those sort of pitch messages that come straight through. So, what I've been actually doing pretty recently is try and make things playful slash maybe humorous. And what I mean by this is try not to take it too seriously and, play around with it a bit. So, for example, for reference, I will follow up people up to about 3 times, right? Like when I go and send a message. Now, my follow up two messages tend to do a very specific thing. They tend to focus on presuming that they don't have a problem. So I call it a presumptive disqualifier. So, for example, that might look like, hey, assuming that, I don't know, your pipeline's looking pretty well lately, da 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 da. What it means is that I assume they don't have the problem that I can solve, and I almost take a step back. But what I can do in terms of making this more playful is I can almost make it so like, hey, assuming, you know, X is in check, Y is solid, and Z is like sorted or something. Um, unless, for example, like unless I've got it all wrong or something, right? This sort of stuff um, is obviously gonna be far more perhaps interesting, obviously, perhaps you could go like a little more playful with it. But this is the sort of stuff which instead of the usual, hey, just bumping this up in case you missed it, is gonna make it a lot more specific. Now, at the end of the day, I would also aim that each of the follow-up messages to somewhat target some kind of pain or problem that my ideal client will have. But what you want to avoid is avoid follow up language, right? Because generally speaking, if you're doing what most people are doing or sounding like most people, it's probably not going to work because if most people are doing it and if it was working, then you sort of get what I mean. So generally, the rule of thumb is try and be a bit playful in your messages, in the follow up messages that you're doing, so that you can effectively come across as someone that's actually human in the messages.